Are you lost too, mister? The voice was small, clear, and oddly calm for a place that never slept. Daniel Cross looked up from the departure board at Terminal 4, Heathrow Airport. Rows of cities flickered in white and amber, New York, Frankfurt, Dubai, each one reminding him of where he should be, and none of them telling him where he actually was. The girl stood a few feet away, no older than 7. She wore a yellow hoodie that looked one size too big, a small pink backpack hanging from one shoulder like it had learned to survive without help. Her hair was neatly braided, as if someone had cared enough to do it carefully that morning. Her shoes were clean. That detail stuck with him for reasons he couldn't yet explain. "I'm not lost," Daniel replied automatically. It was the same answer he gave investors, journalists, even himself. The girl tilted her head, studying him the way children do, without filters, without fear. "Then why do you look like you forgot where you were going?" Daniel didn't answer. He was the CEO of Cross Aviation Systems, a company whose navigation software guided planes across oceans and through storms. His algorithms corrected human error. His decisions moved markets. Yet here he was, standing still with a boarding pass folded and unfolded so many times it was soft as cloth, unable to step toward Gate 27. The girl shifted her weight, then sat down on the floor beside him without asking permission. Airports had rules, but children had instincts. "My mom says airports are where people pretend they're okay," she said. "But they're usually not." That landed harder than any quarterly loss. Daniel glanced around. No frantic parents, no security alert. Just travelers rushing past, dragging suitcases and conversations, blind to the quiet moment unfolding beside a glass wall overlooking the runway. "Where's your mother?" he asked, his tone sharpening despite himself. "She's on a plane," the girl said. "I'm waiting." "That doesn't sound safe." She shrugged. "Neither does being sad and pretending you're busy." Daniel exhaled slowly. For the first time that day, his chest loosened just enough to feel the ache underneath. He had flown in for a board meeting that ended early, with congratulations, handshakes, and a celebration dinner he politely declined. No one noticed. They rarely did. When you reached the top, loneliness learned to dress like success. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lena," she said. "What's yours?" "Daniel." "Mr. Daniel," she corrected, smiling. "Are you flying somewhere important?" He looked back at the board. New York, a penthouse, a calendar full of meetings, a life optimized for everything except silence. "I think so," he said. Lena reached into her backpack and pulled out a folded piece of paper, edges creased, covered in crayon lines and uneven letters. She held it out to him. "What's that?" Daniel asked. "A map," she said, "for when people get lost." Daniel hesitated. He didn't take things from strangers, especially not children. But something in her certainty disarmed him. He unfolded the paper. It wasn't a map. It was a drawing. A man standing alone in a big room, lines everywhere, arrows pointing in every direction, and in the corner, a small figure holding out a hand. At the bottom, written in careful block letters, were 3 words: "You can stop." Daniel felt his throat tighten. "I draw them for people who look like they're running," Lena said softly. "My mom says sometimes grown-ups forget they're allowed to stop." The loudspeaker crackled overhead. Final boarding call for Flight 182 to New York. Daniel stared at the gate number, then at the little girl beside him, then back at the drawing in his hands. For the first time in years, he didn't move. And in that stillness, a question he'd buried long ago began to surface, one that would change not just his journey, but hers. Because Lena wasn't waiting for a plane, she was waiting for him. The announcement echoed again through the terminal, louder this time, more insistent. Final boarding call. Daniel folded the drawing once, then again, carefully, as if it were fragile. "Your flight," Lena said, nodding toward the gate. She didn't sound disappointed. She sounded observant. Daniel slipped the paper into the inside pocket of his coat. "Yes," he replied. "It is." "So, are you going?" she asked. He opened his mouth to answer and realized he didn't know. The certainty that usually snapped decisions into place, acquisitions, layoffs, cross-continental moves, was absent. In its place sat something heavier, something unresolved. "I have time," he said finally. Lena smiled, not triumphantly, but with relief, as if she'd been holding her breath. They sat side by side on the cold airport floor while travelers streamed past them. Daniel checked his watch out of habit. The minute hand kept moving. The world didn't stop just because he did. "You said your mom is on a plane," he said. "Which one?" "The early one," Lena replied. "She had to go before the storm." "What storm?" She pointed toward the glass wall. Outside, clouds were gathering, low, dense, slow-moving, the kind pilots respected. "Why didn't you go with her?" Lena shrugged again, but this time it wasn't casual. It was practiced. "I had to stay." Daniel frowned. "Stay where?" "Here. Until someone comes." That answer didn't sit right. "Airport staff doesn't let children wait alone," Daniel said. He knew policies. He'd written some of them into contracts. Lena picked at the zipper of her backpack. "They let me sit here because I said I was meeting my uncle, and because I didn't cry." There it was, the detail that made his chest tighten. "Who's your uncle?" Daniel asked. "I don't know," she said honestly, "but my mom said he would know me." Daniel turned toward her, fully now. "Lena, how long have you been here?" She looked up at the departure board, counting silently. "Since the sun was on the other side of the windows." "Hours." Daniel stood abruptly. His instincts, dulled by boardrooms and assistants, flared awake. "We need to find airport security." Lena's hand shot out and grabbed his sleeve. Her grip was small but urgent. "Please don't," she said. He froze. "They'll make me sit in a room," she continued, her voice low now, controlled. "They'll ask questions I don't know how to answer, and then they'll call people who make things complicated." Daniel knelt in front of her so they were eye level. "Lena, this isn't about trouble. This is about safety." She met his gaze without blinking. "Then why do adults always look scared when they say that?" He had no response. Around them, the terminal hummed. Luggage wheels rattled. A couple argued softly in Spanish. Somewhere, a child laughed. Life, uninterrupted. "Your mom," Daniel said carefully. "Why did she leave you?" Lena's eyes dropped to the floor. When she spoke, it was quieter. "She didn't leave me. She trusted me." "With what?" "With waiting." That word again. Daniel felt a flicker of anger, not at Lena, but at the invisible adult who had made this choice. Trust had limits. Responsibility had weight. "What does your mom do?" he asked. "She cleans airplanes," Lena replied. "At night. She says they look peaceful when everyone leaves." Daniel swallowed. He pictured her, alone in a cavernous hangar, wiping down seats others treated like disposable space. "And the flight she took?" he asked. "Job interview," Lena said. "If she gets it, we move." Move. Again. Daniel glanced toward gate 27. The line was gone. The doors were closing. "You're not lost, mister," Lena said softly, echoing her first question back to him. "You're just deciding." He exhaled slowly. In 30 seconds, he could still make the flight. In 30 seconds, his old life would continue uninterrupted. But if he stayed, if he missed it, there would be explanations, consequences, questions he couldn't delegate. He looked at Lena, small, composed, alone in the loudest place imaginable. "All right," Daniel said, making the choice before fear could interrupt it. "We'll wait together." "For who?" Lena asked. "For whoever comes," he replied. "And if they don't—" He stopped himself, because in that moment, he understood something unsettling. This wasn't about helping a lost child. This was about what happened when a man who had spent his life directing others finally stayed still long enough to be needed. And somewhere deep inside Daniel Cross, something long dormant began to shift. Not because of a crisis, but because a little girl had trusted him with her waiting. Daniel felt it before he saw it, the subtle change in air, the way urgency moved differently from hurry. A security officer slowed near them, eyes flicking from Lena to Daniel, then back again. He didn't stop at first. He circled once, pretending to check his radio. On the second pass, he paused. "Sir," the officer said, neutral but firm. "Is everything all right here?" Daniel straightened instinctively. Years of boardrooms had trained him to project calm authority without raising his voice. "Yes," he replied. "We're waiting for someone." The officer looked down at Lena. "And you, sweetheart?" "I'm waiting too," Lena said. Same calm, same practiced tone. "For who?" the officer asked. Lena hesitated. Daniel noticed. It was the first crack. "My uncle?" she said finally. The officer nodded slowly, the way professionals do when they don't believe you but aren't ready to challenge it yet. "Name?" Lena opened her mouth, closed it. Daniel stepped in. "She's been here for a while," he said. "I just sat down with her. Her mother took an early flight for a job interview. The child is supposed to be picked ked up." The officer's eyes sharpened. "And you are?" Daniel hesitated for half a second too long. In his world, names opened doors. Here they might close them. "Daniel Cross," he said. Recognition flickered immediately. The officer glanced at his tablet, then back at Daniel, reassessing. "CEO Daniel Cross?" he asked. "Yes." The officer's posture changed, not deferential but cautious. "Sir, airport policy doesn't allow unrelated adults to supervise unattended minors." "I understand policy," Daniel replied evenly. "I also understand context." The officer shifted his weight. "Context says a child has been alone in a secured area for several hours." Lena's fingers tightened around the strap of her backpack. "We're not causing a disturbance," Daniel said. "We're waiting." "That's the problem," the officer replied. "Waiting isn't a plan." Two more officers approached. One female, one older, both observant. The circle closed gently but unmistakably. "Lena," the female officer said, kneeling. "I'm Officer Patel. Can you tell me your mother's name?" Lena looked at Daniel. Not for permission. Something else. Reassurance. He nodded slightly. "Maria," Lena said. "Maria Alvarez." Officer Patel typed quickly. "Does she have a phone?" "Yes." "Do you know the number?" Lena recited it from memory perfectly. Daniel noted that too. Children learned survival in different ways. Officer Patel stepped aside to make the call. The older officer turned to Daniel. "Sir, with respect, your presence complicates this." Daniel met his gaze. "Or it stabilizes it." The officer exhaled. "High-profile individuals attract scrutiny. If this escalates, it won't be quiet." Daniel almost laughed. Quiet had never saved anyone. Escalate how? He asked. Child services, documentation, temporary custody, the officer said. Processes you don't control. Lena's shoulders stiffened at the word custody. Daniel crouched beside her. Listen to me, he said quietly. No one is taking you anywhere without explaining why. And I'm not leaving. But you're not family, Lena whispered. No, Daniel said. I'm responsible. Officer Patel returned, her expression unreadable. The number went through. Voicemail. Daniel felt the tension spike. We'll try again, the older officer said. In the meantime, protocol requires we move the child to the family assistance room. Lena shook her head immediately. Please don't. Officer Patel softened. It's quieter there. They locked the door, Lena said. Not accusatory, factual. Daniel looked up sharply. Is that true? Officer Patel hesitated. For safety. For control, Daniel replied. The officers exchanged glances. Sir, the first officer said, voice firmer now. You need to step back. Daniel stood. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't posture. He simply said, If you move her without her mother present, you create trauma. You also create liability. The word landed. I'm not threatening, Daniel continued. I'm stating outcomes. Let me stay with her. Open space. Visibility. You keep oversight. I keep her calm. Silence stretched. Lena looked up at him, eyes wide, not with fear but with something like disbelief. The older officer finally spoke. 10 minutes. Thank you, Daniel said. As the officers stepped back, Lena whispered, You didn't have to do that. Daniel looked down at her. Yes, he said quietly. I did. Because in that moment, he understood something critical. This wasn't a misunderstanding anymore. It was a test. Of systems, of responsibility, of whether power was something you exercised from a distance or something you used when standing directly in the mess. And somewhere, thousands of feet in the air, a woman named Maria Alvarez was flying through turbulence, unaware that her daughter's fate now rested with a stranger who had finally chosen to stay. The 10 minutes felt longer than any flight Daniel had ever taken. He sat beside Lena again, close enough that she could feel his presence without him touching her. The officers stayed within sight, pretending not to watch while watching everything. The terminal lights dimmed slightly as evening crept in through the glass wall. Outside, rain streaked the windows, blurring the runway into silver lines. Lena hugged her backpack tighter. Do you think my mom's phone is off because she's nervous? She asked. Maybe, Daniel said. Interviews do that. My mom gets nervous when she thinks people won't believe her, Lena said. She says papers matter more than truth. That sentence lodged itself somewhere deep in Daniel's chest. Before he could respond, Officer Patel's phone rang. She stepped a few paces away, turned her back, and answered. Daniel watched her shoulders stiffen almost immediately. Yes. Understood. One moment, she said quietly. She returned, expression altered, less procedural, more human. Lena, she said gently, your mother is on the line. She wants to speak to you. Lena's face lit up, relief breaking through the composure she'd been holding all day. Officer Patel handed the phone to Daniel first. She asked if you were with her, the officer said. Given the situation, you can stay. Daniel nodded and handed the phone to Lena, keeping it on speaker. Mama? Lena said. The voice that came through was strained, breathless, layered with static and exhaustion. Lena, baby, are you okay? Yes, Mama. I'm with a man named Daniel. He's not lost. There was a pause. Daniel, Maria said carefully. Please, listen to me. I'm here, Daniel replied. I didn't abandon her, Maria said, the words tumbling out fast. I had no choice. If I miss this interview, we lose the apartment. The man who was supposed to pick her up, my cousin, he was stopped at immigration. They won't let him through. Officer Patel exchanged a look with the older officer. Maria's voice cracked. They said it could take hours. Maybe tomorrow? Why didn't you come back? Daniel asked. They wouldn't let me, she replied. Once the doors closed, that was it. I tried everything. Lena's hand crept into Daniel's sleeve, fingers curling there. Maria inhaled sharply. Sir, whoever you are, please don't let them take her away. Every time officials get involved, things disappear. Time, paperwork, people. Daniel understood more than she realized. They're saying child services, Maria continued. Temporary custody. That's never temporary for people like us. Daniel closed his eyes briefly. How long until you land? He asked. 2 hours, Maria said. Maybe more with the storm. The officers didn't interrupt. They didn't need to. The gravity was clear. Maria, Daniel said, opening his eyes. I'm going to stay with her. I will not let her be moved unless there is no other option. You have my word. Silence. Then, quietly, why would you do that? Daniel looked down at Lena, at the crayon map folded in his pocket, at the gate he hadn't walked through. Because someone once waited for me, he said, and no one came. The line went quiet again, then Maria whispered, Thank you. Officer Patel cleared her throat. Ma'am, for legal reasons we need proof of guardianship. Documents, IDs. I know, Maria said. They're in my bag, with me. Another pause, another complication. The older officer spoke, more carefully now. Sir, this is becoming a long situation. We'll need a plan. Daniel stood. Then we'll make one, he said. He turned to Lena. Are you hungry? She nodded slowly. He looked at the officers. I'm not leaving the terminal. I'll keep her in public view. You can escort us. The older officer studied him. You miss your flight. There's no going back. Daniel didn't hesitate. I know. As they walked toward the cafe, Lena looked up at him. You really stayed? Yes, Daniel said. Yes. He thought for a moment. Then I think my mom was right. About what? That sometimes, Lena said, the right person shows up late. But not too late. Behind them, the storm intensified, planes delayed, schedules unraveling. And for the first time in a long while, Daniel Cross felt something shift. Not in his career, not in his status, but in the quiet space where purpose had been waiting to be found. The cafe was louder than it looked. Steam hissed from espresso machines, cups clinked, and conversations overlapped in half a dozen languages. Daniel chose a table in full view of the terminal, exactly as promised. Lena sat across from him, swinging her legs slightly, a paper cup of hot chocolate cradled in both hands. For a few minutes, things felt almost normal. Then Daniel noticed the phone. A man 2 tables over pretended to scroll while angling his camera just enough. Another across the aisle glanced up, recognition dawning, whispering to the woman beside him. Daniel Cross was not anonymous. He leaned back, positioning himself so his body shielded Lena from wandering lenses. You're famous, Lena said quietly. Sometimes, Daniel replied. Not for the right reasons. The older officer approached, voice low. Sir, airport operations flagged social media activity. Someone posted that a CEO is detained with a child at Heathrow. Daniel closed his eyes briefly. This was the cost of visibility. That's not accurate, he said. Accuracy rarely stops momentum, the officer replied. Media relations is asking questions. Lena's grip tightened on her cup. Am I in trouble? Daniel leaned forward. No, you are not the problem. But the world didn't operate on truth. It operated on narrative. A woman in a blazer approached hesitantly. Mr. Cross? She asked. I'm with Airport Communications. We need to clarify the situation. Daniel stood. Privately. Cess. He shook her head. Anything involving a minor becomes public interest. He looked down at Lena. She was watching him closely now, as if memorizing how adults behaved when pressure arrived. This child was left unattended, the woman continued. We need a statement. No, Daniel said calmly. You need restraint. Her expression hardened. Sir, I will not allow her to be turned into a headline, Daniel said. His voice remained even, but there was steel beneath it. If you need a statement, here it is. A child is safe, supervised, and waiting for her mother. End of story. The woman hesitated. Our legal team can speak to mine, Daniel replied. That was the moment everything changed. Because until now, this had been a humanitarian pause, a quiet decision. But the instant lawyers entered the conversation, the past followed. Officer Patel pulled Daniel aside. There's something you should know, she said. Child Services has been notified automatically. It's protocol once media activity flags a minor. Daniel's jaw tightened. How long until they arrive? 30 minutes. Maybe less. Lena overheard. They'll take me, she said, voice flat. No, Daniel said immediately. They won't. But you said you're not family. Daniel knelt beside her. Family isn't the only thing that protects someone. What else does? She asked. Accountability, he replied. His phone vibrated. Unknown number. He answered. Daniel Cross, a familiar voice said, smooth and clinical. This is Eleanor Price, chair of the board. Daniel closed his eyes. Of course. We're seeing your name trend, she continued. What exactly are you involved in? A child, Daniel replied. That's not an answer, Eleanor said. Your absence already raised concerns. This complicates things. I'm aware. Then leave, she said. Now. Let airport authorities handle it. You cannot afford the optics of this. Daniel looked at Lena, at the way she sat too straight, too prepared to disappear if told. No, he said. Silence. Daniel, Eleanor warned. This could cost you. He spoke slowly, deliberately. Then let it. The line went dead. Officer Patel exhaled softly. That was your board, wasn't it? Yes. They won't protect you here. Daniel nodded. I'm not asking them to. Across the terminal, a small group gathered near the security desk. Two people in plain clothes spoke quietly with officers. Clipboards appeared. Lena's breathing changed. Daniel noticed immediately. Hey, he said softly. Look at me. She did. You are not alone, he said, and I don't walk away from people who trust me. Her eyes filled, not with tears, but something more dangerous, hope. Outside, thunder rolled low and distant. Inside, Daniel Cross stood between a system built on procedures and a child built on waiting. And in choosing to stay, he felt the last threads of his old life begin to stretch, close to breaking. They arrived without urgency. That was the most unsettling part. Two women and a man in neutral coats, badges clipped but not displayed, expressions professionally calm. Child Services didn't move fast. They moved final. Daniel stood instinctively as they approached. Mr. Cross, the taller woman said, already knowing his name. I'm Ms. Harding. This is a welfare check. Lena's legs stopped swinging. Daniel placed a hand lightly on the table, close enough for Lena to see it if she needed to. "She's safe," he said. "Her mother is in transit. We're waiting." Ms. Harding nodded as if he'd said nothing of consequence. "That may be. But at this moment, the child has no legal guardian present." "She has consent," Daniel replied. "Her mother is not here," Ms. Harding interrupted, not unkindly. "Consent without custody doesn't transfer authority." Lena stared at the floor. Ms. Harding crouched to Lena's level. "Hi, Lena. I'm here to make sure you're okay." "I am," Lena said quietly. "Can you tell me who this man is?" Lena glanced at Daniel. Just a glance, then back. "He's the one who stayed." Ms. Harding smiled politely. "That's nice, but I need something clearer." Daniel felt the shift, the way language became a tool instead of a bridge. "I don't want to go with strangers," Lena said. Ms. Harding's smile tightened. "We're not strangers. We help children." Lena shook her head. "You help move them." That landed. The man with the clipboard cleared his throat. "Sir, we'll need you to step away while we speak to the child privately." "No," Daniel said. Every head turned. "I will not step away," he continued calmly. "She has expressed fear. Removing support increases trauma." Ms. Harding straightened. "You are not authorized to determine trauma." Daniel met her gaze. "Then you are not authorized to ignore it." A beat of silence. Officer Patel shifted uneasily. Ms. Harding spoke again, firmer now. "Mr. Cross, if you interfere with this process, we can involve law enforcement." Daniel didn't flinch. "Then do it." Lena's breath caught. She grabbed his sleeve. "Please don't get in trouble because of me," she whispered. Daniel knelt, his voice low. "Listen to me carefully. This isn't trouble. This is responsibility." Ms. Harding checked her watch. "We're taking the child to the Family Services Suite until guardianship is verified." Lena's grip tightened. "Lena," Daniel said, meeting her eyes. "You have a choice." Ms. Harding frowned. "She's a minor. She does not." "Yes," Daniel said quietly. "She does." Everyone froze. He turned fully to Lena. "You can tell them what you want. Not what you think they want to hear, what you want." Lena swallowed. Her voice was small but steady. "I want to stay where people can see me," she said. "I want to stay with him, and I want my mom to come back and find me where she left me." Ms. Harding inhaled slowly. "That's not how this works." Daniel stood. "Then this is where it changes." The man with the clipboard murmured something to Ms. Harding. She nodded slightly. "We will, allow the child to remain in public view," she said. "Under supervision, temporarily." Lena looked up at Daniel, disbelief flickering across her face. "But," Ms. Harding continued, "if guardianship cannot be established by the time the mother lands, the child will be placed into protective care." The clock started ticking. "How long?" Daniel asked. 45 minutes, Ms. Harding replied. Daniel nodded once. "Then we wait." As Child Services stepped back, stripped of urgency but heavy with finality, Lena whispered, "You didn't leave." "No," Daniel said, "and I won't." But even as he said it, he felt the truth settle in. This wasn't about power anymore. His name didn't matter. His money didn't matter. His influence had reached its limit. All that remained was time, and whether waiting, this fragile human act, would be enough. The terminal clock clicked forward with a sound Daniel had never noticed before. Not loud, not dramatic, just precise. 27 minutes. Lena sat very still now, hands folded in her lap, the hot chocolate untouched. The earlier swing of her legs was gone, replaced by a posture that looked too adult for her age. Daniel recognized it immediately. He'd worn it himself as a child, the posture of someone preparing not to be chosen. "Planes don't wait for people," Lena said quietly. "They only wait for weather." Daniel looked at her. "People wait for people." She gave a small smile, unconvinced. Officer Patel approached again, phone in hand. "The airline confirms your mother's flight is delayed," she said gently. "Storm over the channel." "How long?" Daniel asked. "Indefinite," Patel replied. "They haven't given a landing window." Ms. Harding watched from a distance, arms folded, eyes on the clock. She didn't need to say anything. Time was doing the work for her. Daniel's phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. He answered. "Mr. Cross," a man said, measured, official. "This is Richard Hale, external counsel for Cross Aviation Systems." Daniel exhaled. "Of course it is." "I'll be direct," Hale continued. "If this situation escalates into a custody dispute, your presence will be interpreted as interference. That exposes the company to reputational risk." "This isn't about the company," Daniel said. "Everything is about the company," Hale replied. "You are the company." Daniel looked at Lena. She was watching his face, reading it the way children read adults when answers are hidden in tone, not words. "What do you want me to do?" Daniel asked, already knowing. "Step away," Hale said. "Let authorities proceed. We'll issue a statement expressing concern and cooperation." "And the child?" A pause. A careful one. "That is not within our scope," Hale said. Daniel ended the call. Lena didn't ask what was said. She already knew it hadn't been good. "Are they making you leave?" she asked. "No," Daniel replied. "They're reminding me who I used to be." She considered that. "Did you like him?" Daniel thought of the penthouse, the silence, the endless movement with no arrival. "No," he said. "I don't think I did." Across the terminal, Ms. Harding checked her watch again. 15 minutes. "Mr. Cross," she called out, "please be aware we are approaching the end of the allotted window." Daniel nodded. "Understood." Lena's breathing grew shallow. "What happens if my mom doesn't get here?" she asked. Daniel didn't lie. "They'll take you somewhere safe." "Safe isn't the same as home," she said. "No," he agreed. "It isn't." She looked up at him then, eyes steady, voice calm in a way that hurt. "If they take me, will you forget me?" The question hit harder than any threat. Daniel crouched in front of her. "No," he said immediately. "I won't." "But people say that," she replied. "Then time happens." Daniel reached into his coat and pulled out the folded drawing. He placed it gently on the table, between them. "This," he said, tapping the paper, "is proof that time doesn't erase everything." Lena studied it, then looked back at him. "You kept it?" "Yes." She nodded once. "Then remember me." The words were simple. The weight was not. Ms. Harding approached again, this time closer. 5 minutes, she said. Daniel stood. He looked around the terminal, at the cameras, the officers, the strangers pretending not to watch. At a system that functioned best when people complied quietly. He reached into his pocket and felt the hard edge of a decision forming. "Lena," he said, voice low but certain, "if they tell you to walk away, I want you to do one thing." She looked up. "Stand still," he said. "Look at your mom's gate. Don't disappear quietly." Ms. Harding frowned. "Sir, what are you suggesting?" Daniel turned to her. "That I am formally assuming responsibility." Silence dropped like a held breath. "That is not a casual declaration," Ms. Harding said. "That has legal consequences." "I know," Daniel replied. That's why it matters. Officer Patel's eyes widened slightly. Ms. Harding studied Daniel carefully now, not as a CEO, not as a distraction, but as a man placing himself deliberately in the path of a system. "You are prepared," she said slowly, "to be listed as the responsible adult until guardianship is resolved?" "Yes." "And if the mother does not arrive?" Daniel didn't look away. "Then I stay." The terminal clock clicked again. Time did not care, but Daniel did. And for the first time, that was enough to change what happened next. The announcement came quietly, almost apologetically. "Attention passengers, Flight 603 from Madrid is now approaching final descent." Officer Patel straightened first. Then Ms. Harding looked up sharply. Daniel didn't move. He had learned by now that hope was fragile, and systems punished people who lean. "Get on it too early." "How long until the gate?" Daniel asked. 10 minutes, Patel said, "if there are no further delays." Ms. Harding checked her watch again. "Our window expires in 6. The math was cruel. Lena stood beside Daniel now. She wasn't holding his sleeve anymore. She stood on her own, shoulders squared, eyes fixed on the arrivals corridor. "If she doesn't make it," Lena said quietly, "I won't cry." Daniel looked down at her. "You don't owe anyone strength." She shook her head. "I owe myself being seen." Ms. Harding took a step closer. "Mr. Cross, we need to prepare for the likelihood that—" A sudden commotion rippled through the terminal. Not loud, not chaotic, just a subtle shift, people turning their heads in the same direction, attention bending like grass in wind. A woman broke into a run from the arrivals corridor. She was soaked, hair pulled loose from a bun that hadn't survived the flight, shoes in her hands as she ran barefoot across the polished floor. Her coat hung open, one sleeve half on, her bag slamming against her hip. "Lena!" she shouted. The sound of her voice cut through everything. Lena didn't move at first. She just stared, as if afraid the image might disappear if she blinked. Then she ran. Daniel watched as mother and daughter collided, not gracefully, not cleanly, but desperately. Maria dropped to her knees, arms locked around Lena, pressing her face into her daughter's hair as if to count every breath. "I'm here," Maria sobbed. "I'm here. I'm sorry, I tried." Lena cried then. Not loudly. Into her mother's shoulder, the way children do when safety finally arrives, and there's no more need to hold it together. Around them, the terminal slowed. Phones lowered. Conversations stopped. Ms. Harding exhaled slowly. "Mother has arrived," she said. "Guardianship confirmed." Officer Patel smiled despite herself. Maria looked up then, eyes red, face streaked with tears, and saw Daniel standing a few steps away. She stood quickly, still holding Lena's hand. "You stayed," Maria said, disbelief and gratitude calm, lighting in her voice. "They said you could have left." "I almost did," Daniel replied honestly. "I'm glad I didn't." Maria swallowed hard. "I don't know how to thank you." Daniel shook his head. "You don't." Ms. Harding approached, tone different now, lighter, less guarded. "We'll need to document the resolution, but there will be no further action." She paused, then added, "You handled this unusually well, Mr. Cross." Daniel met her gaze. Children don't need usual. They need present. Ms. Harding nodded once, then stepped away. Maria squeezed Lena's hand and whispered something in Spanish that Daniel didn't understand, but he didn't need to. The meaning was clear. Lena looked back at Daniel. "Are you still lost?" she asked softly. Daniel smiled, small, real, unguarded. No, he said. I think I just arrived. She stepped forward and held out the crayon drawing again. You can keep it, she said, in case you forget. I won't, Daniel replied. Maria hesitated, then reached into her bag and pulled out a folded document, her interview offer, stamped and signed. I got the job, she said quietly. We'll be okay. Daniel nodded. I never doubted that. As mother and daughter turned toward the exit, Lena glanced back one last time and lifted her hand in a small wave. Daniel raised his hand in return. Only when they were gone did the weight of what had happened settle fully. His phone buzzed. Dozens of messages, missed calls, alerts. Daniel turned the screen face down. For the first time in years, the world had demanded something from him that money couldn't solve. And he had answered anyway. The boardroom felt smaller than Daniel remembered. Not physically, structurally. Glass walls, polished table. The city stretched below in clean lines and controlled distance. Every detail designed to project certainty. Yet as Daniel took his seat, he noticed Haki. How tightly. Everyone held their folders. How eyes flicked to the door whenever a sound passed outside. Screens lit up with headlines. CEO, misses flight to protect abandoned child. Cross aviation. Head, defies protocol at Heathrow. Hero or liability. Investors question judgment. Eleanor Price sat at the head of the table, hands folded. This meeting was not scheduled, she said. It was triggered. Daniel nodded. I assumed. Your actions have polarized stakeholders, she continued. Some praise, some concern. Stock volatility is already measurable. Temporary, Daniel replied. Reputation is never temporary, Eleanor said. It compounds. Another board member leaned forward. You involved yourself in a child services matter without legal authority. I involved myself as a human being, Daniel said. A silence followed. Not agreement, not opposition. Calculation. We are not debating morality, Eleanor said. We are debating suitability. Daniel looked around the table, at people he had hired, mentored, promoted. He saw no cruelty, just distance. I built this company to guide people safely through uncertainty, he said. If we cannot apply that principle when it's inconvenient, then we don't stand for much. That is rhetoric, Eleanor replied. Markets don't trade on rhetoric. No, Daniel agreed. They trade on trust. Another board member spoke. You were unreachable for 6 hours. Yes. You missed a critical negotiation. Yes. And yet, Daniel continued, nothing collapsed. Eleanor's jaw tightened slightly. We're recommending a temporary leave, she said. Non-punitive, optics-driven. The word hung there. Temporary. The same word Maria had feared. Daniel exhaled slowly. He had known this was coming. Staying always had a price. Accepted, he said. Several heads lifted. On one condition, Daniel added. I step down permanently at the end of the quarter. The room went still. That is unnecessary, Eleanor said carefully. No, Daniel replied. It's honest. You're walking away from everything you built, another member said. Daniel shook his head. I'm walking toward something I ignored. No one argued. There was nothing left to negotiate. Later, alone in his office, Daniel packed slowly. Awards came down first, then framed magazine covers, each one lighter than he remembered. His phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. This is Maria. Officer Patel gave me your contact. I hope that's okay. Daniel smiled faintly. Lena asks if you still have the map. The message continued. He looked at the folded drawing on his desk. I do, he typed back, and I keep it close. A pause. Then another message. If you're ever in Madrid, you have family here. Family. Daniel stared at the word longer than necessary. That evening, he walked out of the building without an escort. No cameras, no applause, just the quiet echo of footsteps and a city that kept moving whether he let it or not. For the first time, that didn't bother him. Because the cost of staying had been high, but the cost of leaving, he realized now, had always been higher. 2 years later, Daniel no longer tracked time by flights. The small office overlooked a modest airfield outside Madrid, not a hub, not a spectacle. Just a runway, a control tower, and planes that arrived and departed without ceremony. Daniel liked it that way. He worked as a consultant now, quietly advising non-profits and regional carriers on safety systems that didn't make headlines, but saved lives. On his desk, framed but never centered, was a child's drawing. A man, a big room, arrows everywhere, and a small figure holding out a hand. The door opened without a knock. "She's early," Maria said, smiling as she stepped inside. Lena followed, taller now, braids replaced by a loose ponytail, backpack swapped for a violin case slung over one shoulder now, stood. "I thought lessons weren't until 4. "They moved it," Lena said. "Planes change schedules. People do too." He smiled. "Come in." They sat together at the small table by the window. Outside, a turboprop lifted cleanly into the sky, banking gently into the clouds. "You ready?" Daniel asked. Lena nodded and opened the case. She positioned the violin carefully, chin set, bow steady. The first note filled the room, uncertain, then clearer, then sure. Maria watched from the doorway, arms crossed, eyes full. When Lena finished, Daniel didn't clap. He simply said, "You waited for the note. You didn't rush it." She grinned. "You taught me that." "No," he replied. "You reminded me." Later, as they walked toward the car, Lena slowed near the fence at the edge of the airfield. "Do you ever miss being important?" she asked. Daniel considered the question seriously. "I miss being needed for the wrong reasons," he said. "But I don't miss being absent." She nodded, satisfied. Maria reached into her bag and handed Daniel an envelope. Inside was a photo, grainy, taken on a phone at Heathrow. A little girl in a yellow hoodie, a man sitting on the floor beside her, looking unsure, human, present. "I keep it so I don't forget," Maria said. Daniel slipped the photo into his pocket. As they parted, Lena turned back one last time. "Are you lost now?" she asked, echoing the question that had started everything. Daniel shook his head. "No." "Good," she said. "Because next time, I might be the one waiting." Daniel watched them go until the car disappeared down the road. Above him, the sky was clear. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel the urge to chase it. He had learned something airports never taught him, that sometimes the most important journey begins the moment you decide to stay. If this story made you pause even for a moment, share it with someone who's been running too long. And if you believe small choices can quietly change lives, let us know in the comments. Where did you decide to stay?